I accidentally scared a teacher after lights out. So my parents got a call from them saying, okay, this is not acceptable. She's going around scaring teachers with her little sculptures.
Yeah. I embrace and harness the purity within the moments of destruction. The brokenness and nothingness of such fragments form the backdrop of my poetic observations as they rescale their presence as relief in my work. Those words were not written by me, but they were written by someone pretty cool who's with us today. It's Kopal Seth. Did I get that right, Kopal?
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely right.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. You're someone who started your journey as a young girl in Khurai?
Khurai.
Khurai. I got that wrong again, up in Madhya Pradesh.
Yes.
And somehow you made your way to one of the top art schools in India and also one of the top art schools in the United States. Then you went on to a residency at this amazing ceramic studio, and now you're running your own thing. It's a really neat story, and I want to hear all about it from you today.
I think it all started with me going to a boarding school when I was in 6th grade. So I have not lived at home with my parents for like 15 years now. So my father is actually really passionate about education, and he deeply realizes what education can do for people and how it can change their lives. So he really wanted me and my siblings to have the opportunities to be exposed to as many things as we can be: sports, arts, drama, education, the best of the education. So we went to the boarding school.
But that's 6th grade, right?
Mm-hmm.
But before that, like whenever I meet someone who's an artist, especially someone who's a professional artist, in my head they were like drawing art from the time they were born. So was that your experience as a young kid? Were you that kid in the corner, like always sketching and making stuff, or?
Yeah, actually a little bit. So yeah, I was that kid who would like, over summer breaks, I would like sit in front of the TV, and there was this show that would come on, I think, Pogo channel, that was called Mad. So it was like Mad Over Art or like Mad About Art or something like that. And so each episode, towards the end, they would tell you the supply list for the next episode. So I would watch it daily and collect as much material as I could to follow along for the next day. And like my room would be a complete mess with all the supply and glue and glitter and just trash everywhere.
Okay,
so I was one of those kids.
You knew early on then that art was something that you wanted to be part of, or at least arts and crafts.
I knew I wanted to do it. I did not know there were career options in it. So I knew that's something that I enjoyed doing. I knew it was funny to make little things and like show it to people. It was a lot of fun for me to share that. And this one time I made these scary hand with paper mache, and I got in a lot of trouble at the boarding school for it because I accidentally scared a teacher after lights out. So my parents got a call from them saying, okay, this is not acceptable. She's going around scaring teachers with her little sculptures.
Yeah.
So that's got to stop. But yeah, so I did not know there were career options in fine arts until very, like, much later.
Okay, so I mean,
life.
you're in school. You're in middle school, primary school.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about art school down the road? Is the school encouraging you? Or are they saying go do engineering?
So it was mostly that, go do engineering, do the traditional, like, so in our school we had these aptitude tests, and like that kind of would narrow down the field that you would in. So I think like traditional academics were like not my strong suit. I was like an average student, not like great at math and science. So I think fine arts, like selecting arts, happened to me as a process of elimination and not like what I was like good at. So it was like, okay, I'm not good at science, so don't want to do that. I absolutely hate maths. Like the whole time I would study it, I would be miserable. So we had this, this is like a very like core memory for me. So in India, the education system, how it works is like in 10th standard, you're supposed to decide which subjects you're going to take for your 11th and 12th, and then they sort of generally they decide what options you will not have in the future. So like if you take science, you can pretty much do anything. Like all the streams are open to you. If you take commerce, of course you can't be a doctor, but you can do other things. And then if you take the humanities, which is like social sciences and all, so like it's perceived as you have limited options. So in my family, we had this big discussion where my dad was like, okay, you've got to take maths. And I was like, I will be so miserable. And that was the very year my school had introduced fine arts as an elective. So like with like the main 5 subjects, you could take another one. And that could be either math, computer science, fine arts, or etc. So fine arts was one of the options. So we came to an agreement where I chose to take accounts and fine arts. So it was a middle ground for both of us where I did not take maths. And there was a little bit of math in accounts, so my dad was also happy. And so we came to a middle ground. So I'm very fortunate that way that my family is not like, iron fist. Like, you have got to do that and you cannot like deviate from what has been told to you. We always have a bit of a discussion and try to find the best possible option where everyone's happy.
Okay, you're in 10th standard. You decide you're going to take fine arts. Are you closing doors? Do you have this sense that you're taking a risk here?
I did know it was going to be somewhat of an unconventional life, but I did not really understand the reality of it, I would say. Like what it takes to be an artist, how financially straining it can be, how hard it is to find opportunities for it. I was very naive to that because I was also debating between, do I want to go just into fine arts or do I want to go into design, which can have job opportunities and like a little bit of a traditional path where you have jobs and you can work for a company that is and like have some kind of a job security basically. So I think like I decided it based on the college that I got into. So I really knew how great MSU was. And I had a teacher, so from my boarding school, I got like special permission to go outside of the boarding school for art classes. And so to build my portfolio so I could apply for art and design schools. Because we did have an arts program, but I wasn't able to spend that much time at the school doing the work.
Let's step back for just a second because you're in 10th standard, you decide I'm going to pursue fine arts. That's one thing, but you're still taking accounts and the other core subjects. So, I mean, the doors aren't totally closed.
Yeah, they're not.
But then somehow you make this decision, I'm going to go to art school, I'm going to go to design school. Like, what is that decision like? And is everyone telling you, why are you going you're wasting your time going to art school, right? Like, talk to me about the decision to go to MSU and how that impacted things.
So I had a really great art teacher in school. She had gone to one of the best art schools in India, which is Shanti Niketan in Calcutta. So she was, I think, my first mentor in this journey. Because she had been to all these schools, she really told me what were my options in terms of fine arts. And then she told me what were my options in terms of design. And I could go to NID, I could go to MIT in Pune. And what would it take for me to get accepted to these colleges? Because it was somewhat of a liberal school, I would say, that nobody really questioned that decision that very strongly.
What about your parents?
Yeah, they were pretty all right with it. They like I said, they've been really supportive with me. Like we had to come to a middle ground, but they were pretty okay with it. My mom actually wanted to be an artist when she was younger. And because, the times back then, she never got the opportunity to be able to do that. So she was like my champion. She, kind of rooted for me and helped me do it.
Like, I feel like this would be this, if I'm listening to you, like, oh man, that'd be awesome, but my parents are like pushing me to be a doctor. And if I told them I want to go be an artist, there's no way.
Well, my family really knew my strengths and my weaknesses, I would say. They knew that even if I did go into a traditional sort of a engineering path, I would not be good at it. Like, I would feel miserable. I would not do my job. Like, I would become it, but I will not be great at it. So they really did not want a life for me where I hated my job, I hated my life. They wanted me to do what I liked and be good at that. So I think that confidence from them in me really pushed me to work hard because I had this pressure on me that, okay, I have chosen this path which is really different and my family has trusted me to be able to do that. So I've really got to work hard. I cannot slack and I've got to do something with my life in this field.
Yeah, well, and you said your parents, didn't want you to be miserable, but you don't want you to be miserable either,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And I think you make an excellent point about working hard and sort of embracing the pressure, because I think a lot of people when they think of art and design school, the thought is I'm going to go and I don't know, draw with crayons or so. You know what I mean? Like people view it unfairly as this sort of nothing couple of years to like find yourself or whatever.
Yeah.
When in fact that's not the case. Okay, so you get to MSU. You're in Vadodara. You're in Gujarat. You've gone from MP to Gujarat. What was that experience like?
It was really interesting, quite different from the atmosphere that I had come from. The classes were quite open, so we, except for like the first couple of semesters, there weren't really set assignments. It was very open to what you wanted to do, what you wanted to pursue. And through that, they do have a structure where you get to explore a lot of different mediums. So my major was painting in undergrad, but as an elective, I could go to other departments like ceramics, printmaking, photography to try my hand at other mediums and see if I can like involve those into my current practice and just expand my knowledge of material. And how that worked was people would, in their first semester, they would take something that they wanted to try but will probably never pursue forward. So ceramics was that for me. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take a ceramics class. Working on the wheel sounds really cool, looks a lot of fun. I'm gonna do that. And once I did that, I was hooked. Like I really found a lot of peace in the practice. There was so much skill that involved in it. And you could, the more you practice, the better you would get. So I was like, okay, all right, like I'm gonna work hard at that and get better at that because it was very visible. Like the progress was very, very visible. So I really enjoyed that part, and it's quite technical, has somewhat of a science involved in it too, but it's not like theoretical science. It's really like you mix stuff together and then you see this cool color. So that really intrigued me.
And did you feel like you found your tribe, right? Like were you all of a sudden like, wow, these are my people. Like there's a lot of people like me here.
Actually, that happened to me at Residency.
Okay, let's get to the good. That's a wonderful segue.
Yeah.
Okay, so you finish at MSU, and at some point you decide you want to continue your academic journey in the United States at RISD, the Rhode Island School of Design, which is a phenomenally great design school and art school in the United States. Number one, what made you decide to study in the U.S., and two, why RISD?
So, like I said, I had gotten into ceramics and taking classes there. And I realized that, so you know how you asked me earlier that, it can be a really tough life to be an artist. So that realization, like the reality of it, hit me when I was at MSU. And I realized ceramics was this magic medium where I could have a little bit of both. Like I could be an artist, employ that material to be an artist and pursue that gallery museum track. And on the side, or if that doesn't work out, I can have a pottery studio. I can have a small business. I can still be creating. I can still be a creative person, but in a different avenue, in perhaps like an entrepreneur level or like a business level. So that really solidified my like goal to pursue ceramics further. And I still, like US still was not in my radar. I wanted to try and see if I can find opportunities in India to be able to pursue that at the level I wanted to pursue it at. So I reached out to some people and found out about this institute in Bhopal called Bharat Bhavan. And I set a goal for myself. I was like, if I can keep doing ceramics for 2 months, that's like how long the summer break is, without any like hindrance, and I can just be consistent at it, I will give it a shot. Like I will pursue it at a master's level, because it's not a light commitment that you do at a master's level to switch your major right after. So
What was the backup plan? If you
there,
didn't,
there really wasn't one, and I think that helped me just kind of aim at something and just put everything towards it, because there was no backup plan. So I worked for those 2 months, built a somewhat substantial portfolio to be able to apply to universities, because the application process to apply to universities in the US is you've got to submit photographs of your work, then you have to write a couple of essays, then like once those go through and you're selected in the first round of the processes, then you have an interview, and then further.
do you remember any of the essay questions?
They're quite generic. Like it's about why do you want to go to the school, and write about your statement of purpose, because like artists have to describe their work and what they're interested in pursuing.
So what was your statement of purpose? You're 1 years old maybe or something
Yeah.
at this point, and
So I had what gravitated me towards RISD was part of my statement of purpose, that a lot of the schools had very strict requirement to be able to enter the ceramics program, where you had to have certain amount of ceramic knowledge to be able to apply to the program. And because ceramics was my minor and I had only done it for a very short amount of time, I did not have that extensive knowledge to be able to pursue some of the colleges. But RISD was one of the few programs that I found was very interdisciplinary. And I read one of the alumni's interviews, and they had said that they came from a graphic design background right before they had come to RISD, and then they got into the ceramics program, and that really helped their ceramic practice flourish in a unique way, because they came from a different way of looking at art. So I was like, okay, this place sounds like I would really fit in there. Like, I'm from a different background. I could have a different perspective to offer. And I do not have an extensive ceramic knowledge. So a lot of the classes are together with the undergrad. So you learn together at graduate level with the undergrad students. So it's all pretty mixed up. So I was like, okay, this sounds like the place. So I'm going to aim for it. This is going to be my top college, because I can feel that I'm going to get what I need from this program. So whatever I was aiming for, it kind of checked all my requirements for grad school. And then I applied for a few other schools, just like.
But was there anything in your mind, though, was there anything unique about the United States versus Canada or Australia or England?
Not really, but I mean, I had some personal reasons to apply for the US. My sister lives in the US. My brother had gone to school in America. So it was just like something that was like, okay, I'm going to look at schools in America. And I was not opposed to going to other countries. And then, I just simply Googled best art schools in the world outside of India. And the list came up, and a lot of them happened to be in the US. So I was like, okay, all right, like my family's there. That's pretty convenient. So I started looking at the schools. It took me about 2 years to prepare for a portfolio.
Wow.
So I was, because ceramics was not my major, I started doing my college university research when I was in my third year of undergrad. And then from my third year to be able to apply to universities. I think like US applications start much earlier compared to other countries. So I think it was like my first semester of my final year at undergrad, which is the fourth year, I had to start writing essays, get my portfolio together, and then apply. And then by the time I graduated, I would have heard back if I got into university or not, like if I got into a college or not. So that's kind of how it went, that I wanted to pursue ceramics at a much higher level. I was not able to find that kind of a support in India. And like pursuing masters just seemed like the next step, because culturally I think that's what happens in India, that you do your undergrad
Then you
and
gotta
then
go
you
do
do
your
your
master's.
masters and then you pursue your career forward. So I was like, okay, I've done my undergrad, now I'll do my masters
But
in
you're still
something.
thinking somewhere in the back of your head, okay, it's ceramics. I can be a gallery artist, or I can do my own studio like this. And it sounds like maybe your parents making you take accounts back in 10th standard maybe influenced a little bit. You know, you're like
Maybe.
the first artist who can balance a checkbook. Okay, so RISD, you're off. You're going to go to RISD. You're going to go to school in the United States. Do you remember your visa interview?
No, not particularly.
That's good. Good.
Like,
So there's
it
no like.
was not like scarring or
Okay, cool.
tough. I think it went pretty smoothly because I don't remember it.
Good. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So you was this the first time you'd been to the U.S. When you went to RISD?
No. So I had visited my sister before that in Florida, and that's when I kind of got a little bit exposed to the education system in America. So she was attending a community college for graphic design, and I got to visit the campus. And like she would share her assignments with me, and we would discuss what she was going to do. And it was just so fun. The challenges that they were posing, the kind of conversations they were having. It was, I think, very different from what I was studying and the kind of intellectual stimulation that I was receiving. So I really liked that kind of a pattern. And when I went to visit the campus, the resources in a community college are just as amazing as any other college. And I was like, wow, like this is really great. Like you can, like it doesn't have to be an expensive education for it to be a quality education. And then I started looking at schools, and I think that's where it all started.
And maybe if people aren't familiar, community college is the first 2 years of undergraduate, tends to be pretty reasonably affordable. And yeah, absolutely, high quality education. A lot of them have programs with larger state universities that automatically feed into them. Okay, so you're off to Rhode Island, a small state in the northeast of the United States. It's cold in the winter. But you get there, and we touched on this earlier, you found your people, your tribe. These are people like me. Talk a little bit about that.
It was like jumping into the deep end, like without any floats or anything, because I had absolutely underestimated, like everybody does, how much work art school is. Like I had absolutely underestimated it. It is a lot of hard work, a lot of late nights, a lot of failing, because it was also a new medium for me. I was doing a lot of things I had never done before. And the pace of the school is just so fast. Like you have written assignments every week, you have tests every week, you have crits every week, and you just have to keep working. There's like no room to stop or breathe or just be like, okay, I'm gonna like not do much this week. So I was really thrown, like, I dove into the deep end, and I learned a lot very, very quickly. Very quickly, you are just given so much information, so much knowledge, and there's so many resources that you have access to that I was completely amazed and wanted to learn as much as I could, as fast as I could. So I would talk to everyone. I talked to a lot of my professors. I would spend learning skills from people in other departments. and I would learn from my peers, I would learn from the professors, and I just wanted to keep up with everyone because a lot of the people in my program came from much more extensive ceramic backgrounds than I had. So I just wanted to like learn quickly so I can make things that I wanted to make. And I think my teachers really noticed that I was not afraid to ask questions if I didn't know anything. I would just say, yeah, I don't know that. Can you explain that to me?
I
So
love
they were
that,
always,
because you're sitting in the classroom and everyone's like, oh, this is a stupid question, I shouldn't ask
yeah.
it. But like, yeah, just ask it, it's fine.
Exactly. And because I think that also, like, because in India, that was my mindset as well, that I was like, okay, that's a dumb question. I'm not going to ask it. But over there, I realized how rare and how amazing of an opportunity it was to be part of that school. And I was one of the 4 students in my class. Like, my cohort in ceramics department was 4 people.
Whoa.
So I really realized how fortunate I was to get that spot. And I was like, I'm not going to waste time being shy and not ask questions and not learn. I just want to
What's the worst that can
learn.
happen, right?
Yeah.
People judge you or something? Fine, let it happen. You said the F word earlier. You said fail.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about failure a little bit, because this is something that I hear a lot, especially as we compare and contrast maybe the education system in India versus the United States, where I think in the United States, we look to fail, right? That you're not working hard enough and you're not pushing hard enough unless you're failing. So talk a little bit about that mindset and how that shifted for you, and to embrace failure as a means to learn.
That all comes back to ceramics because the material is so fickle and it's so technical that you fail constantly. You fail on an everyday basis. You can fail picking, like moving a shelf, and like things will start to drop. So that comes very easily with the material, and the only way to kind of deal with it is to embrace it. And like in my dramatic statement of purpose you read out earlier, that's what I did, because in the beginning of my first semester, I was just learning the techniques, how to build a pot, how to glaze it, and all of that came with a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unexpected results. So I would intend for something to look a certain way, and then it would come out of the kiln looking completely opposite. And then I would have a crit like 2 days later and not enough time to. So crit in an art school is when everybody comes to your studio and then they judge your artwork.
God, it's like communism or something, where everyone, what do they call that? Self-criticism? Okay, okay, so you sit around and everyone tells you how much your work sucks. That's great.
Well, it's not that brutal.
Okay.
It's more like what you can improve in your work, and like you talk a lot about the concept of your work. So you get a lot of feedback about how you can make your work conceptually strong. If you are having any technical difficulties, how you can resolve them. So that was me a lot of the times. Like I would have all these questions about the technical things and why I was having cracks in my work, why was my work broken, why, so all those things. So you get a lot of input in terms of resolving your practice and making it better. And like, because a lot of the times when you have an idea, you get, like at least I do, I get very one track about it. Like that's what I fixate on, and that is what I want to do. And if it's not that way, it takes me a while to kind of get out of that. So a lot of the critiques that I've had have helped me sort of break through that block and see the work from a different perspective. So somebody would share their observations about what I had created. So that was sort of like the format of the work, that everybody would, format of the crit, that everybody would come to your studio. And before you could start talking, they would tell you what they thought about the work, what they were observing out of the piece that you had created. And that would sort of get the gears in your head going much more than they were before, because you had the certain, like, at least I had that certain idea that I was aiming for. And because it, you know, art is subjective, it looks different to everyone. So when people tell you what they see in your work from their different perspective, it really like changes your way of looking at the world and like the process, the way you think, the way you approach things.
But how do you cut through the nonsense? And I want to be careful here because art is subjective. But here's what I picture, okay? You do your work, and there's a crack in your vase, and the crit comes around. And you're like, God, I wish I could figure out how this crack happened and how to fix it. But the first person who looks at it says, oh, I love the crack. It represents the divide between masculinity and femininity. And like, you're thinking, no, it was a mistake. I just want to fix it. Like, how do you pick through the sort of like...
I mean, first of all, you take everything with a pinch of salt.
Okay.
And then sometimes you use that stuff and make it even more.
Just own it.
Yeah, just own it. Like, yeah, that's what I was aiming for. Like, that's exactly what this is about. And a lot of the times that kind of observation really does help you add more meaning to your work. So like if somebody makes an observation like that, they definitely come from a different background. They've had different experiences in their life. And that's why they were able to connect that to the simple crack that they saw in your work. So it really helps you find a deeper meaning in your work. Because, yeah, like not all art is supposed to have a deep meaning or should have. Like, it can be just simple. At least I think. I think it can be simple, and it's not like, it doesn't have to be like all deep all the time. It can be fun, it can be quirky. So sometimes you embrace it, and sometimes just that simple observation can kind of nudge you into a direction or a research track that can kind of fuel your practice. So, like, you can always find some kind of sense in all the bullshit and kind of own it.
There's always sense in the BS. I like that. I'm gonna own that line. Okay, so from RISD, it's 2 years? Okay, so it's 2 years at RISD. You're wrapping up there. You somehow end up at the Clay Studio. Did I get that right? Which is this like really well-known, famous pottery studio. How do you go? Did they see your work? Like, how do you end up there?
The end to RISD was also quite dramatic for me because it happened when the pandemic started.
Oh, right.
So I was the pandemic class.
Yeah.
A graduating pandemic class. So really didn't have a graduation ceremony.
Did you do it like on Zoom or something? Or?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we did it over Zoom. And
but I bet it was really interesting because you're at an art school. So like.
Well, it was it was a bit of a letdown because
really?
Art school endings are what you work so hard for. Like the 2 years that you work hard for is for the end. Because towards the end of your education, you have this massive show, like a solo show with all your peers. Everyone from the country comes to see it. The galleries come to see it. There are curators who come to see it. Architects come to see it. Everyone who's anyone interested in student work, in supporting students, comes to see your work. So you get a lot of exposure through that show, and that kind of launches a lot of people's career forward because they get a gallery representation out of the show and like further opportunities. So we didn't really get to have that, but RISD was really nice to have organized a little online platform for us to be able to share some of the work that we had done. Fortunately, through that online portfolio or the platform that they had created, I got one of my pieces published as like favorites of RISD and Yale in the Hyperallergic Art magazine. So that was like, I was like, okay, all right, like it didn't happen in the most ideal way, but at least I got something out of it. So towards the end, while you're preparing for your thesis show, you're writing your thesis, at the same time, I was also thinking of what would be my next step for the OPT year that you get after finishing your education.
The optional practical training.
Yes. So I was like, okay, I definitely want to take full advantage of that. But at the same time, I was very nervous because a lot of the things were not happening because, the pandemic. So not a lot of stuff was happening. But I was still applying for residencies. So residencies are very much like college applications. You have to turn in your portfolio, you have to answer their questions, you have to turn in your resume, statement of purpose. And then there's like from the residency's perspective, there is a panel that sits and like reviews your application, and then you get accepted or you get
God, it's like
denied
medical
accordingly.
school. You know, I mean, you
That's very much
graduate and then
is.
you still got to go do more stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So it was just like that. I was like fanatically applying for things, like anything and everything I saw, I applied for it. And I was very, very fortunate to have great mentors at RISD who helped me with all the recommendations and suggested a lot of places that I could apply to. And one of my professors suggested the Clay Studio in Philadelphia because they knew they have a long-term residency program, and they had been a part of one of the shows that they had, and they knew the organization was very, very nice for a ceramic artist to be a part of.
Okay.
So they suggested that I apply to the Clay Studio's residency, and up until that point, I wasn't particularly familiar with the Clay Studio. And then I applied for it, and the pandemic happened. Did not hear back from any of the residencies for a very long time because they did not know if they were going to be able to host people, if they're going to be able to remain open. Couple of the residencies canceled their programs. So I was very worried about what was going to happen, if I'm going to have to return back home and not be able to take full advantage of the OPT period. And so I kept emailing everyone, hey, haven't heard about the application that I applied for like 3 months ago. Should have heard by now. And that's how I reached out to the Clay Studio following up on my application. And they said they're still reviewing them. There was a delay because of the pandemic. And then I got a notification, I think a week later, on my graduation day, so the day of the ceremony, I got a notification from the Clay Studio with the information that I had been accepted to the program.
I mean, so you're taking off, right? You got this great residency.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the U.S. Yeah, it's pandemic times, but you've done really good for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, you decided to come back to India, and I assume you probably could have stayed in the United States and tried to make a go of it there. What motivated you to come back?
Well, so I was working. Well, a lot of it had to do with the visa issues because the Clay Studio does have the residency program that I was part of is a 5-year program, but I could only do the 1 year because the visa options are limited to be able to pursue the whole 5 years. So I was thinking if I could apply for the O1 visa and if that would help me continue the program. But O1 visa requires extensive like professional practice, and because I had throughout right up until this point in my life, I had always been a part of an education institute. So like from school to undergrad to master's level. So none of the things that I had achieved in that span of my working, though equivalent to professional practice, technically don't really apply that
so if it's a
appropriately
5-year
to
residency, though, are you doing that from here now?
No, you have to quit the residency
Oh, man.
to be able to.
So you've got basically like this 5-year job offer that you couldn't take.
Yeah, because they do also give you a job with it.
Yeah.
I was teaching with them. I was like engaged in their community activities. I do still work with them a little bit. I'm part of one of their exhibition committees, so we review exhibition proposals and things like that. But because I had such a blast with them, I have an open invitation from them to be a visiting artist whenever I would want to return back. So a lot of the returning, like not a lot, but just the immediate or the cutting short of the residency had to do with the visa things. But my goal, even when I decided to pursue education in the US, was to return back and do something. It would have been nice if I was able to finish the whole 5-year term, but I never really thought, I never really aimed to get a 5-year term in the first place. It just happened by chance. I was only applying for residencies that were 1 year long, 2 year long, and then a professor suggested this thing, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. I'll see what happens.
But now you've established your own thing here, right? You've got your studio up and running. That's back in Madhya Pradesh.
Yeah, that's in my hometown in Khurai.
And what kind of art are you creating? Like commercial ceramics? Like what are you into these days?
So I'm creating sculpture right now.
Okay.
A lot of wall sculptures. So they're like little like semi 3D things on the wall. So you can only see like 3 sides of it, and the back's the wall. Somehow, I think it has a lot to do with my painting background that I always gravitate towards the wall. I like whenever I visualize something, I'm like, okay, it goes on the wall. I always imagine an idea which is on the wall. So it takes me a while to kind of imagine the 360 of a thing. So I'm creating a lot of wall sculptures.
Who buys a wall sculpture from you? Like, is it an institutional thing? Is it is it people like for their homes? Like, I've never purchased a wall sculpture.
Yeah.
So I don't.
So I have a gallery that represents my work in Delhi. So it's called the Art-Centric Space. So whenever I make an art piece, I show it with the gallery, and they have their database of collectors and people who are like interior designers, architects who might be interested in something like that. So those would be those kind of people would be the clients for that. And I think wall sculptures are really convenient compared to traditional sculptures because they don't take up that much space. They are
You can
very
literally
much.
you can put them on the wall.
Yeah, you can put them on the wall. And, in India, we don't have a lot of space. Like, nobody has a hall that they can put like a 6 feet sculpture in, but they have a 6 feet wall that they can put something massive on. And it helps me make bigger work as well because I can make it modular and have it all become like this massive thing with small little pieces.
I gotta tell you, you're like the most pragmatic artist ever. I love all of it because you seem very true to your art and to yourself and to what you've learned and to design. But at the same time, you're thinking about that, like, okay, I gotta make a living at this, and I gotta eat and keep the lights on. And I think it's cool you found a way to marry both of those things.
I'm glad. I'm still figuring it out. So yeah, it's just been a little while that I've started my studio. So it's a lot of just, the studio sounds like, wow, I have like this massive, like there's so many people who are working with me. But it's mostly just me sitting in a room alone doing stuff.
No, massive operation. You gotta create a little bit of marketing here. Maybe that's you forgot to say marketing.
I think that's where I'm lacking, I guess.
Well, look, we're fans of yours. We wish you the best of luck and all the success in the world. Where can people find out more about you and your work?
You can follow me on Instagram at Kopal Seth _studio.
Okay.
Or you can look up my website at www.kopalseth.com.
Okay. Cool. Awesome. Well, look, I appreciate you making the time today and being with us and sharing your story. And I'll have to look at some of that wall art.
Yes.
All right. That's Charcha-cast for this episode. See you next time.